Hi, everyone. Welcome to Planoly Presents Back to Social School. We have an amazing lineup today for y'all. As we know, back to school looks a little different this year. So we brought together a group of amazing entrepreneurs and parents and business owners to talk to you about different topics. And today we have Mom and Dad Knows Best, building next generation of children's brands. We have our amazing moderator, Ariana, who's the head of content at Yumi. And I will pass on the mic to her, but please add in the chat box where you're from. We'd love to know where you are all from. And also we have a discount code for Planoly. Just use Planoly Presents and you will be able to get a free month off of Planoly. So thank you, everyone. And I'll hand it off to Ariana to introduce everyone.
Good morning, everyone. This is a little weird. It's like speaking into a dark black hole. I have no idea who's out there, who's listening, who's, breastfeeding, who's eating their breakfast, what's going on. I'm really excited to be here today because we're talking about building a next generation children's brand. But what does that mean? What does next generation look like when we are literally in the midst of the weirdest time I think most of us have ever lived through? We have some amazing people with us today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because that's the best way to do it. So Jacqueline and Scott, I'm going to kick it off to you guys to say a little bit about who you are and what your state of mind is like right now.
Oh my God, so loaded. How much time do we have to talk about our state of mind?
All day.
So I'm Jack Tatelman. It's my much better half and co-founder, Scott. So we are the founders of State Bags. My title is CEO and Creative Director. And Scotty?
I am the give back guy at State Bags. So just a little background, we started the company in 2013, but 4 years before that, we started a nonprofit organization that sends hundreds of kids to camp from New York City's most underfunded communities. And we built this company to support kids in, locally in a variety of ways. And I wanted to make sure that our charitable efforts were genuine, were impactful. And the only way to do that was to have somebody who thought about it all day, every day, like myself, who always wanted to build a company that had a heart and a purpose and a real mission that made some real change. So I think that was our intro, I guess. Yeah. I gave a little brand backstory too.
We also sell bags.
Yes, we do that too.
We're most known for backpacks, specifically our kids' bags, but we consider ourselves a family lifestyle bag brand.
Awesome. What would you say your state of mind is right now?
Oh, right. That question.
That one.
Well, fortunately for us, our kids are in a very small little school. We're staying out on Long Island for the year. And so our kids are not in the home right now, which definitely opens up my state of mind to be able to begin how to kind of get back to a place of even again, just to give myself a little bit of space to find my routine and to reconnect with our team who, is now all over the country, actually all over the world. And so my state of mind is just sort of trying to bring it all back together again.
Yeah, I would say my state of mind is very thankful for health and for being in a situation where we can, safely send our kids to school, but also very focused. I am very energized by the idea of our next charitable initiative, which I think is more important, needed, and timely than anything we've ever done. And I'm basically spending every free second of my day thinking about how we're going to make it as big and as impactful as I think it can be. So thankful and focused is where I'm at.
That's great. I think that's a really beautiful state of mind to be in, especially as so many people are struggling to get there. To see that it's actually possible is good to hear. Briana, why don't you introduce yourself and Sun and Lace and tell us a little bit about what you're going through right now.
Hi, I'm Briana. I started Sun and Lace about 5 years ago when my oldest was like 9 months old. I wasn't really finding cute and unique boy shoes. And so I've always been like a sewer and a crafter. So I was like, I'll just make them his own. And so kind of like any handmade story, my friends are like, oh, those are cool. You should sell those. I was like, okay, I'll sell them. And then 5 years ago, and then I've since had two kids. I have two boys and a girl, 6, 4, and 1. So my life is just a little bit crazy right now. I'm the only person sewing and making and marketing and kind of like doing everything. Um, so like 5 years ago, I never thought that I would be making literally hundreds of shoes a month. So like I'm trying to figure all that out and just staying sane. Virtual school started last week. So yeah, running a business in between virtual school and naps, and that's where I'm at.
It's really wild. It's, obviously I I shudder to say the word unprecedented because we've just heard it so many times, and it's beyond what that is at this point. I said to someone the other day, it feels like this really mean game of like just a little bit different than Groundhog Day, because you wake up and everything's almost the same, but it's not the same. So you like can't get in the swing of it. You can't get in the routine of it. And I think there are a lot of parents right now who are struggling both with building a brand and building a child and trying to retain some sense of sanity. How do you balance that part of the day? Like Briana, you just said, you're sewing hundreds of shoes every month and you're trying to maintain your brand as one person. What does the day-to-day even look like, and how are you deciding what parts of the business to focus on right now?
So I had to extend my turnaround time to about like 4 weeks, so that I just have enough time to fit all of my life in a day. And people have been very understanding that about life. Like I'm a mom first, and so they're willing to wait for their shoes. But we're 2 weeks into virtual learning and kind of sort of have a routine down. So I get my kindergartner set up on virtual school. I play with the four-year-old, set him up with some independent games, put the baby down for nap. I work for a little bit and then start the whole cycle. I do that like 3 times a day. Start the Zoom cycle, 4-year-old, work, and then sit again.
Jack and Scott, you guys mentioned you're obviously in a little bit of a different position. You mentioned that you have employees kind of spread out all over the country, all over the world right now. How do you managing them? How do you, get yourselves in a state where you can send the kids off to school and then get into like boss mode?
Well, I'm always in boss mode because I'm bossing around my whole family all the time.
Obviously.
True.
Particularly my husband. No, our team is very small but very mighty, and we're super lucky and fortunate for that. Everyone sort of owns their own department, with us sort of overseeing it. And so really we've just been all about touching base as often as possible. Like obviously Zoom and FaceTime are our best friends. I'm still adjusting, even though it's been a while, because we've gone through so many different phases with the business where it was like, at first we just completely turned off. From like the end of March until May, essentially we were not doing any business. We had just like kind of just shut it all down for a little, like just to kind of get our bearings. And then we sort of picked things up back right before back to school, essentially. And so everyone was just kind of ready and willing to jump right back into things. And so with an excited team and a re-energized team, it's been a lot easier to kind of get us all back into what our routine would have looked like had we gone into an office every day and stuff like that. And we're also really big on the divide and conquer, so that is very helpful with both of us being able to maintain our sanity and like get close to our team, I should say.
Scott, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think the divide and conquer for us is very true. You know, there's a lot of pros to working with your spouse, and there's a lot of cons as well. And I think we've hit all of those across the board. But I think for the pros, like, you know, when we were basically in hibernation mode from March through May, I was able to kind of manage the kids all day, every day, and give Jack the space she needed to, like, get on calls with our financial people and our strategists and understand how we can come out of this or just survive through it. And I think, like, if there's anything that I think anybody right now who has their own business or a job or whatever it is with kids, the one thing that people really need is space. And I think what I tried to be conscious of and work really hard on was just, like, giving her the space she needed to just do what she needed to do, even though every day presented new things and we really didn't know what we needed to do. But, you know, like, our kids needed attention just like our business needed attention. And I was able to give it, and while letting her do her thing. So I think we came out of it somehow, and our kids are still pretty normal and good. So we're okay.
And we're still married, so.
Right. Still.
I told my husband, I was like, I think if you make it through 2020 still married, you get to celebrate like an extra 10 years of marriage. That's the deal we've made. Social is an interesting space right now. There's obviously a lot of activism going on. Jack and Scott, I know you guys have the series Words for White, the White American series. Is that what it's called?
Sorry, there's background noise, so we're trying to mute, but.
Yes, that's part of our What Do We Tell the Kids platform.
What do we tell the kids? Yeah, can you guys talk a little bit about that, sort of what that came out of and how your community's been responding and how you continue to.
Are you hearing that noise? I'm sorry.
Know. It's okay. That's life.
Jack's gonna get him to. I don't know what that is outside, but so we in 2016 we started this platform called What Do We Tell the Kids. I mentioned we have this nonprofit summer camp. That specific summer in 2016 was a really tough summer for police brutality, and the Black Lives Matter movement really kind of like emerged. And at camp, there were a lot of kids who were asking the question, do I matter? Why don't I matter? Like, what is this movement all about? And I was listening to it, and it was happening in this little tiny, like, space in Pennsylvania. And I just thought, these are conversations, and this is like a thing that needs to be shared. So that fall, we launched our first What Do We Tell the Kids initiative that basically took on that question. Like, what do we tell the kids about the Black Lives Matter movement, about the Flint water crisis, mass incarceration, Colin Kaepernick's, national anthem protests? Like, what are the messages that kids are getting, and how can we take those messages and use it as a teaching moment? So with that platform, we started doing all types of different things. And as after George Floyd and after all of the protests started really, like, getting intensified across the country, I was getting a lot of calls, emails, texts from people basically asking me, like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you, Scott, going to do? And I took it as obviously an honor and a compliment, but at the same time, I was very strapped for time because I was trying to manage the kids, and everybody's just in a very weird headspace. So I just felt like my whole career has been being lucky to have been around people who educate me about everything, like being in car rides with people from East New York and Brownsville and, parts of LA who talk to me about their upbringing and the struggles and everything else. And I just feel like, similar to those conversations that were happening at camp, like, it was wrong of me to keep those conversations and thoughts just to myself, and that, like, more people should hear, especially now, like, when everyone's talking about, we need to be more honest, we need to have real conversations, uncomfortable conversations. The idea of this was, like, to let people voice what they felt about police brutality, systemic racism, and all those things, and not hold back. And we recorded all of them and we shared them, you know, across about 2 months or so. They're going up on our website soon. There's over 30 people who submitted, and the thought was just to, like, you know, every one of them starts with, "Dear white Americans, you need to hear this even if you think you don't." And I just felt that was pretty profound, not just in the moment, but for the history of this country, that everybody thinks they understand and everybody thinks they know, but like, take a second and listen, and so that you can come closer to maybe knowing a little bit more. Education right now is a big thing, and obviously education as a whole, but education in this particular topic, in this space, is big. And I just felt like, you know, we needed to do something, and we've been doing a lot of things, but in that particular moment, it felt like that was right. And we're going to keep building on it in a variety of ways.
Briana, what have you seen your community going through on social right now? How are people responding to, you know, baby shoes? And baby feet are the cutest things in the entire world. So my dad always said, if you want to make something that sells, make it for babies or puppies. And it's obviously just the most adorable thing to see the little tiny feet in the cutest little shoes. What are you seeing people experience on your social, and how do you decide kind of what you're putting up every day, especially as you're one person doing it all?
Yeah. So my experience in the last couple months has been a little bit different as a shop owner, because the reason why I'm making like hundreds of shoes a month right now is because my shop was shared like thousands of times in like the beginning of June. So as a Black shop owner, that like really flipped my business, and it just exploded. So people have come out and really in support of wanting to support a Black owned shop, and they just, "Oh, your baby shoes are cute," on top of you being a Black shop owner. So that's where I've been. That's what my summer has been like.
Do you feel like there has been just a crazy uptick in the engagement on social? How are you managing that in terms of when you have that many people sharing it and wanting to support your platform? How do you manage the influx of DMs, of comments, of making sure that you're on a posting schedule that is keeping up with all the people who are starting to follow you?
Right. So that has become a little bit tricky because my whole business, or a lot of my business is on Instagram. So I'm on my phone. And so I'm trying not to be on my phone in front of my kids a lot. So I make sure that they're completely entertained. And so then I set aside some time and I answer all those DMs, the emails, like and comment and engage with other brands and followers as well. So I try to make it like just sectioned off, I guess, so my kids don't think that mommy is always on her phone.
Yeah, I think that's a difficulty that a lot of parents are facing right now, right? In addition to what do you tell the kids? And I've had conversations with my 7-year-old about Black Lives Matter and police brutality, and you have to have these conversations about what it actually means to be an anti-racist ally, right? You also have to be like, what do you show the kids? Part of that is community engagement, and how do you do that in a way that's not just through your phone right now, because that's a lot of all we can do. So how do you separate your activism from yourself, from your kid, from your business, from, you know, all of the different parts? How do you guys deal with that? Do you separate it? I know I don't. Like I've not figured out how to do that. So I just kind of I came to the decision that I was just going to pull the whole screen down. And I was like, there's not going to be a facade anymore. There's not going to be, you know, mom has it all together. Mom is like the best at this, and also juggling that. Like, I'm just going to show you what the world is like right now, because that's where we are. And, you know, some people disagree with that. Some people aren't on board, but how do you guys keep a separation between all those different lines of self?
I mean, I'm certainly on my phone a lot. And for me, actually, I don't feel like I've been using social as much at all. And also in a way of showing, my allyship, because, I feel like in our home, it's important to actually have the conversations and, focus on, talking to our kids about what's going on. And certainly the work that we do as a family and that Scot in particular does through state and also through our nonprofit organization. To me, it's hard to stop with the technology as it pertains to business, but I do try to tell the kids, like, look, it's a Tuesday at 3:00, like, I'm still working. I'm sorry that, like, at this point in time, the way the world looks, like, you guys aren't doing what you usually do, but like, I have to keep the business going, and so I'm going to be on my phone. But I try to cut down on the social time so that, again, we make time for conversation. And also, I believe that that's more important, for our children, especially our daughter, to be able to hear it from our mouths and see it from our actions.
Yeah, I mean, I think sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the time at home and like even in the car or just like wandering around, taking bike rides, whatever, has really lent itself to having those like less like, all right, everybody, let's sit down and have a formal conversation about like the broken history of our country. Instead, it's just, it's been this very kind of casual, more organic process of just like, our daughter and our son are very, they notice everything. So if like we turn on the TV and the news accidentally comes on for 3 seconds, they'll see a protest going on, right, and it sparks a question, which then sparks a 45-minute conversation about who knows. And, we've always welcomed those conversations. Like I probably share maybe too much with my kids, maybe at a young age. My parents showed me the miniseries Roots when I was 11 years old, and it changed the course of my life, like completely. So we will be doing that when she's probably 10. So I am like very much of the belief that like conversation can only create good things, especially if you're speaking from a place that feels right, and that your kids are going to understand that like you're telling the truth. And maybe there's some sugarcoating here and there because of their age, but more so just like the truth right now is I think what the world needs. And I think it's what,
and I think like for them sparking needs. Interest, like when we were moving into the house, we asked each other, like, what's one thing you want to focus on, as we start this new chapter in our lives. And our daughter was like, I want to learn more about the civil rights movement and social injustice and stuff like that. And so it's like just sparking that thought process in their minds to ask questions. And that's what we really believe in our home.
She said that and I was like, okay.
I was like, I want to.
Do you think that extends to brands right now as people are starting to figure out, who do I want to support? Who do I want to be a patron of? I'm looking for brands that are about honesty, that are about, supporting issues that matter to me. How much can you mix those two things and still feel like you can build a brand, or is that inherent in brand building right now? Let's to everyone.
So I'll say something, and then Briana, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But this is like a question I've been like thinking about and watching, not just in the past 6 months, but really like since State started. Yep. We really pride ourselves in the fact that like our mission started everything. Like before we even knew what we were going to sell, we knew that we wanted to support kids in need across this country. So everything has been driven by that. And so authenticity for us is a big thing. And everything we do, we make sure like we labor over every detail, making sure that nothing feels disingenuous or inauthentic. So throughout the past couple months, it's been interesting to see how brands have used their platforms to speak on issues like Black Lives Matter, like mass incarceration. I mean, the list goes on. And I think what's happening is that, and this was happening even before, is that customers are getting really savvy, especially the younger generation are getting really savvy with what's real and what's authentic and what's just really out there because it's popular and everybody else is doing it. So, you know, I think it's really like, I always say that, like, if you're going to put something on social or if you're going to create a campaign or whatever initiative, it should be done with the same level of focus and tenacity and, you know, manpower and resources as a marketing strategy or your financial, you know, structure or whatever it is, because if it doesn't, then it's going to fall flat and it's going to look totally fake. And I think if anything, this generation now having gone through this is becoming more and more aware of like these brands that are just doing it because like Blackout Tuesday, like everybody's doing it. So like, we just got to throw it up there.
That's what everyone is saying too. Like that we've heard a lot of customers are looking before the black square.
Right.
What did you have before you had the black square up? And I think that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Briana, as a Black-owned business, what are your thoughts on this?
I guess my perspective obviously is a little bit different because, I mean, if I post a picture of myself in my studio, it's just who I am and it's natural.
Yeah.
So, and I think brands have definitely become more aware and cognizant of maybe they should try a little bit harder, but just as Scott said, that they need to make sure that it is genuine. People will call you out if it's not. And I've seen that happen on a few big brands. And so it just takes a lot more planning and just conversation within your company as well as with your followers, just to get a cohesive just strategy and make sure you're representing everyone and just being more inclusive and just aware of what you're putting out there and who you're affecting.
Mm-hmm.
I also just want to be clear that like, it's great that there are more voices out there. Like clearly we need to rise up to say that things are broken and they need to be changed. So I don't want to discourage that. I think it's also great that people are or brands, companies are being checked for how they do it. And I think that this younger generation is doing a really good job of that with limitations, you know?
So I want to, it's interesting. It's funny to me that you guys are in the business of backpacks and shoes. Like if we pare it down, because those are back to school essentials. And obviously, Briana, yours are for much younger kids who aren't necessarily, you know, going back to school, but back to school is not it doesn't look the same this year for a lot of parents. Jack and Scott, I know you mentioned that you guys are lucky enough to have your kids in school. I'm doing Zoom school, homeschool. I know people are just, they're in so many different states of mind right now in terms of school. It just looks different. But I would love to hear, this is, you know, lightening it up a little bit, love to hear a memory that you guys have about back to school that influences who you are as a person now, or your brand DNA.
Jacqueline's got one queued up.
Good. Okay.
No, I don't love this story.
I saw,
but it is a
smile. Yeah,
it's a true story.
There was like a knowing look between husband and wife right there.
He's like, I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Just whispered one word.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was not really a backpack person in my adult life. So it was an interesting, I'm a clothing person, like I'm a clothing collector. So it was a very interesting sort of path to go along. But as we started to build out what State was going to become, I started to think about my back to school moments and specifically how I related to my backpack. And the one story that comes to mind, or that came to mind very, very clearly, was the fact that I wanted a new backpack for school. I must have been about 7 or 8 or something like that. My parents had gotten me like a black LL Bean bag, and I had it for 2 years. And there was this store, I don't know if anybody remembers Caldor. It's probably like you don't remember because I'm an old lady. But Caldor had this Jams backpack. You guys also probably don't remember Jams, but if you do, you should light up the chat because they were really fun. There were these wild pants. The chat is dead. I do. Melissa, Flores, you and me, baby.
Light it up.
Jams were unbelievable. They were super colorful, wild pants that had like a very specific pattern on them.
Shorts too.
Yes. Yeah. And they were like floral and just like they really spoke to me because I love color, even though this like I'm wearing black, but like I normally am very much draped in color. I love color. I love print. And so I really wanted this Jams backpack. And every time we would go to this like place it was like a town near me, we would drive by Caldor and I would be like, Mom, please. I was like, it was horrifying every time we passed it because then I would have this hope whenever we got to our destination that on the way back, my mom would stop and get me this Jams backpack, but then I would watch Caldor just pass by in the window and I never got the Jams backpack. And I feel like the fact that I am making these backpacks that are so colorful and so happy and totally redefine the backpack kids category is an ode to the fact that I was stuck with a black, beautifully made LL Bean backpack for two plus years and was unable to show my true personality in my backpack world. And so in my adult life, that's all I do is create bags for kids to show their true personalities and express themselves in a way that is fun and fashionable. And see you later, plain black LL Bean backpacks.
I love it. It's so funny because every kid has a different experience. I wanted that LL Bean backpack with my initials on it so badly, more than anything. And it was like, no, we don't have the money. It's not happening. Like, here's your backpack.
Jams backpack probably from Caldor.
Yeah,
it's probably like $18 or something like that.
Scott, you better buy her a Jams backpack. I don't know what
we have a full backpack.
We have our own Jams backpacks.
So many fun backpacks.
Briana, what about you? Do you have any fun like school back to school memories about like your shoes or about shoes that you always wanted that you never got?
My story is not as fun, but I just remember wanting this one outfit in 7th grade. That was when the movie Clueless was popular.
Oh yeah.
So I thought it'd be super cool. Like I had like the chunky, they weren't Steve Martin, or what was it? Steve Martin.
Steve Madden.
Steve Martin. I had the knockoff chunky black like Mary Janes and like the knee-high socks and like this like brown plaid polyester shirt dress that I thought I was just like going to fit in with Cher and her friends. And that was the first day of 7th grade and I just was rocking it. I was like,
I love that.
Amazing.
I wore a uniform. It was really boring. So I definitely wanted I wanted a plaid Clueless outfit more than anything. Okay, we're gonna transition into Q&A, but before we do, is there any homework that you guys would give our audience about building a brand or making their brand authentic or being sure to work part of their upbringing into the DNA of their brand? What's a good homework assignment?
Yeah, mine actually kind of goes along those lines. It's just like to build like a solid brand is to know what makes you you and what makes your product, and then develop your brand around that. You can always change it, of course, and develop around that, but that would be my most important question to ask yourself is what makes you stand out amongst the other companies.
Yeah.
I think in tandem with that, it's important for you to know your customer and know what they're going to use your products for, because that's the way that you should be articulating to them via social, and every other way that you have a conversation with your customer is by sharing with them the ways in which you envision them using your product, and or also just listening to the needs that they have and how you've fulfilled them and sharing that with them, with your audience.
I would say the one thing that I think we've done since day one is understand that we don't know everything and that we are not, business school students. We didn't go to, Ivy League. Like we really were raw and young in understanding how to build a brand. So for those who are looking to build something or just started or are in the beginning stages of doing so, don't be afraid to ask, people in your life for help, to lean on others who can, offer you advice, to understand what you're not good at and to kind of lean into that just so that you can, maybe fill in the blanks where you can't yourself. I think we did a balance of that in the beginning. We definitely leaned on people, but at the same time, we tried to force ourselves into roles and positions that just like weren't right for us. And I think we struggled personally and the brand struggled as well. So I would just say it's okay to not know everything, because as much as there's content out there and there's panels and there's social media and there's everything, like you still got to do it. And it's really hard. It's really hard to build a brand, and it's okay to not know it all.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. There's no sure shot. It's not
Totally.
one piece of advice, and you definitely have to be willing to get uncomfortable in all things. But I will say, and ending this on a positive before we go to Q&A, from what I've seen at Yumi and in my personal experience, is that you have more opportunity right now to be yourself and to succeed in being yourself, because that's what people really truly want. We've seen, the big box brands go down. We've seen corporations get torn apart by one tweet, right? And so what people want to see is who you are, what you stand for, and like Briana was saying too, what makes you unique in this market. And that's entirely up to you. So that's the exciting part. That you can do that. That's homework you can do. So we're gonna open up to Q&A. I believe I got the wink on the side. So I'm not entirely sure how this works. Oh, here's the little chat box. Okay.
I think there's going to be questions about jams.
It's all jams questions.
Where can we get some jams?
It just reminds me, did you guys ever watch Parks and Rec?
I didn't, but I should, because I used to see it on planes and be like, this is very funny.
There's just this dude, his name is Jam, and he would always say, "You got jammed," and it was his diss. Okay.
That's me. I got jammed.
Yeah.
You got jammed. Okay, so we have, what is the most important element to building a kids brand? So obviously building a kids brand is different than building a adult brand or a pet brand or whatever it is you want to put in front of the word brand. Kids specifically, most important element.
Go. Briana.
Go. Yeah.
And well, you got to build a quality product, I think, is the most important thing. And then stand by that through your marketing and imagery.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely key. I think also, again, like getting down to your customer level, but also knowing like what you can offer that will be different. So like when I make a product, I bring it home to my kids and I'll wait for a reaction. And if it's like, oh, I'm like, okay, good. Cause it's a backpack. And so that's sort of a dinosaur product. So if I get that kind of reaction from our daughter or my son,
who has seen every single
and has also told me she's sick of the label, that, we've done something good. So I try to look at every single bag as if it was its own like piece of art, and how, it would get that reaction. That's, it's a backpack, but you get that gasp. And so I focus on, getting down to the kids level and making them excited about something that's not that exciting.
I think also I would add in there trust. We're talking about kids, we're talking about people's kids. So in addition to building a well-built product, like Briana was saying at Yumi, obviously we feed children. Like you have to have parents trust that you have a immensely like scientifically backed sense of what you are putting into their bodies because you're feeding kids. So building that trust with parents is huge. Okay, if you could give yourself at the beginning of March one piece of advice or insight, what would you tell yourself?
For us, I think it would be like stay in the lane. There was just every single business was doing totally different things, and you just don't know. Like my parents always used to say to me, I'd be like, oh, that family, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. It's the same situation. Like you just don't know what goes on, you know, behind the closed door of other people's offices. You don't know what their struggles are, what their triumphs are. So I would just say keep your head down and focus on what is best for State Bags, and don't look around. Just focus solely on State.
And patience, like know that like March and April are a disaster for everybody for the most part, unless you're like Zoom. And like strike while like when we have a moment. So like we came out in May with a collaboration with Carolina Korkova and Billy Blooms for masks. And we had never obviously done masks before. And all of a sudden we were getting order after order after order after order. And it was like, you know, in March, we never would have thought that we'd be making masks, but then the opportunity presented itself and it changed the whole face of our, you know, of our business really.
Yeah.
Briana, one piece of advice.
I would just say, give yourself grace, time, understanding. Businesses are obviously looking a lot different than they were 5-6 months ago. So just give yourself some grace.
Okay. As we become more digitally connected in this new normal, social media is an important tool in establishing trust, especially in this category. We kind of just talked about that. What are some of your best practices or tips for using Instagram or social in general to communicate the value or efficacy of your products? That's not a smart.
For us, I think that it's, you know, we've gone through so many iterations of what we think we want to be on Instagram. Like this is working, this is not working. A lot of this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. And what we think has landed well for us as humans and as parents is just to try to be honest and real about what people are doing with our products. So for us, showing that via Instagram, meaning like we didn't have back to school looking like just a lot of kids going back to school, you know, without masks on and, you know, putting together a whole photo shoot that shows that like we normally would. We went for the route that was real life. Like a lot of kids, back to school means back to your kitchen table or back to the homemade desk or whatever it is. And that has been a huge focus for us to say about every bag and everything that we promote on Instagram, on social in general, is like, where are you going with this? What are you doing with it? And what are you doing with it right now? And so that's definitely a huge part of showing what our company is, who we are as people, and like what we stand for. As also, in addition to that, we had a huge travel collection that we were launching in March, a brand new kids luggage line that we'd been working on for over a year and a half. I was in China building the luggage, and it was like, you can't launch luggage in the middle of a pandemic. I would be like, ew, you people suck. Like I would never buy from them again if that's what you're talking about. But then it got to a place where we changed even the name of it, and we called it Kids on the Move. And it was like, we were promoting safe travel as a family. Like, where can you go as a family? What can you do? You still need to pack a bag, take the car somewhere, wear a face mask, like all of those things. And so that again was like, we lost a lot, you know, not launching when we were supposed to. It was supposed to change our business, but we couldn't do that because we had to be honest about what was happening in the world. And when we did, we went out in a way that we felt very proud of.
Right. There is this balance of stay in your lane and focus on what you are doing, but also you cannot just forge ahead blindly without taking into consideration the, not necessarily other businesses, but the state of what's going on around you. Okay, I'm going to do one more. What piece of advice would you give to a parent who is also running a business right now? We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but I think it's on everyone's minds, and any any help is appreciated.
I think just because we all are in the business of parenting, I guess. So we all understand what each other is going through. So this is like the theme of the pandemic, is just grace. So you need to know that you will need to take extra time with your kids and need to take extra time on your business, and your customers also will hopefully understand that as well. Other than that, I have been doing a lot of late nights. I also have a baby who still gets up in the middle of the night, so I pretty much work until her first wake up. And then, so I just work a lot more like when they're sleeping. So another, like the silver lining of the pandemic is that we are fortunate that we get to spend this extra time with our kids. So I'm trying to make, especially during the summer, it was nice out, trying to be more present while they're playing outside, and then just working when they're either playing or sleeping. Just like, not, I guess for lack of a better word, cramming in work when you can.
Shove it in where you can
Yeah.
make it work. Yeah.
I don't know if this is like kind of like a overly optimistic view on this, or, you know, spin or whatever, but I think like, especially for our kids to see Jacqueline working as hard as she has, like, and to be just like head down from like 9 a.m. to 6, like constantly on call. She'll like come downstairs and like eat like dry cereal, like shove it in her mouth, and then like leave because she's on like 3 phone calls, and we're all like, what just happened? Like, I think that, you know, don't lose sight of the fact that, you know, down the road for these kids, they are seeing what hard work is. So like, usually in a normal time, kids are at school all day and we are at work all day, and they have no visibility into what's happening during that day. That we come home exhausted, they're exhausted, it's a disaster in the works. But that is just like, you know, I think for these kids to like, they're gonna grow up and be like, oh yeah, I remember seeing my parents like constantly on phone calls. Like, we have like these boards that are like all over the place, like with like sketches and stuff that our kids never would have seen. And I do think there is value to the idea that like, they are seeing really what work is. And sometimes it's not, like we always say, work isn't always fun. And like, they're seeing that. And I think it's a value that the visibility is going to be really valuable for them. I hope it's going to, you know, inspire our kids to be hard workers and to want to build something on their own or take over our business one day or whatever it is. But yeah, I think that's something I think otherwise never would have been possible.
Absolutely. It's the idea that they really didn't see what was going on behind the curtain when they were at work. I want to show you guys one quick thing because I feel like this is kind of a cute way to end this, and makes a lot of sense, Scott, with what you were just saying. Yesterday, I stood up from my desk, and my daughter had been writing me little notes the whole time and dropping them like behind my back. And I didn't realize it, but one was, this might be backwards, but like, dear mom, how about you snuggle me while you work?
Oh.
Which I didn't know was happening. And then there's like 10 of them, but the last one was, dear mom, I give up, keep working, which at first I thought was really sad, but then I saw the little exclamation point, and I don't know if you guys can see that.
Keep going, yeah.
And it's like this idea, Scott, that you were just talking about, that they see the value in what we're doing, and we are truly able to show them what it means to be both a parent and a business owner or a worker, or whatever it is. And they appreciate it and they love it. So to all the parents out there, keep working. Don't give up.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
That's such a great way to end it, Ariana. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you to Jacqueline, Scott, Briana. This was such a wonderful conversation. Thank you for just being yourself, transparent, being honest, being true. I would love for people to know where they can find you. Where can people keep up to date with what y'all are doing?
At State Bags. At statebags.com.
Briana, Ariana?
At Sun and Lace and sunandlace.com.
I guess you can find me at Yumi, at YUMI. That's where I spend most of my days. So
I spend most of my days.
yeah, I appreciate you all sharing with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. And remember, we have Planoly Presents every week. Sign up and RSVP, and we hope to see you all there. And thank you all so much. Have a great rest
Thank
of your day.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.